Hey everyone, my name is Riley, and in this video we are going to be comparing Shockbyte to Host Havoc to help you figure out which is the best game server host for you. With both of these server providers, I will leave my affiliate links in the description of this video, so if you want to get the best deals and discounts available, you can use those links when signing up. Now starting off, what I would say about both of these is in general, and I will show you more details throughout this video, but Host Havoc tends to be a little bit cheaper and is better in terms of the overall customer experience. If we go down right here to an 8GB of RAM server, we can see that this is going to be $30 per month on Host Havoc. And then if we go over here to Shockbyte and we find this 8GB of RAM server, you might be thinking, hey, I thought you said Host Havoc was cheaper. It is. So this right here, all this means is the first month, as you can see, you get 25% off. So the first month you pay $24. Every month after that, you pay $32. So we are looking for 8GB of RAM, $32 per month compared to $30 per month. Even if we go down to like 6GB of RAM right here, we can see $22 per month compared to $24 per month. And you also may be wondering, isn't this like a discount? Is this 25% not the same thing? No, over here on Host Havoc, as you can see, this is 25% off for life. Another big game that we can take a look at with both of these is going to be Palworld. So let's open that up with both of these. And the way that Palworld is priced on Host Havoc is actually very different to how it's priced on Shockbyte. And when we look at Palworld, this is what I mean about customer experience. For Palworld, these are the general hosting requirements that you are going to be looking for in terms of the amount of RAM that you need. And look at this. We can see Grisbolt right here on Shockbyte. It says we can have up to 32 players. But as you can see from this list, for every 4 players that we add to the server, we want to be adding around an extra 2GB of RAM. So for 32 players, realistically, we are looking at around 22GB of RAM in order to be able to run this smoothly. Whereas if we go into Grisbolt right here, even though it says 32 players, it starts off with 7GB of RAM, which once again, if we refer back to this list, in order to run the game smoothly, with 7GB of RAM, you're only really able to host 1 to 4 players. We can go down here and we can turn the RAM up to a maximum of 16GB of RAM, which for the 32 players that it claims, I just don't think you're going to be able to run this smoothly, and it's also pretty expensive. I should also switch this over to USD so you can see the actual price in dollars. But overall, when we're talking about customer experience, if you weren't watching this video and you didn't realize the RAM parameters that you need, you would have no idea about this, and you would essentially buy a server which isn't even going to be able to support the amount of players that you need. And I will show you the reviews. A lot of the reviews say the same thing, that they bought a server and then realized that they needed to upgrade the RAM. Whereas Palworld is completely different. We essentially choose the amount of player slots that we need. So let's say that we want 16 player slots right here. The way that the RAM actually works, if we click into the rent a game server, is this is going to give you the amount of RAM that you need depending on how many slots you have. And if we refer back to my earlier chart, we can see that if I have 16 players on my server, I need at least 14GB of RAM, and this is giving me 16, so it scales accordingly. Also, Host Havoc is much cheaper. As you can see, 16GB of RAM on Shockbyte is going to cost me $56. When we compare this, the exact same 16GB of RAM is only $28 over here on Host Havoc. Now, if I go over to Trustpilot, as I mentioned, I would show you this earlier. If we go over here to Host Havoc, we can see 4.8 star reviews. So the majority of these are going to be 5-star reviews saying that this is absolutely incredible. And this is just like page after page of 5-star reviews. Whereas if I go over here and I look for Shockbyte, we can see 4 stars, which isn't terrible. Like, this is still a really good server host. But what you tend to find is if we scroll down, we are seeing a lot more 1-star reviews. Especially this review right here. This one really sticks out to me. And this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. As we were only 2 players, we got the cheapest package. Within the first week, the server crashed daily, which they just didn't have enough RAM. It's nothing to do with the actual server. They just didn't have enough RAM for what they needed. So keep that in mind. So they needed to upgrade the RAM. It then asked us to migrate the server from Netherlands to Germany. In my opinion, this is more of their fault rather than the fault of Shockbyte. The chances are they were probably in Germany and they were trying to run the server from the Netherlands, which isn't really good. Your ping isn't going to be the best. With both of these, what you can do is you can choose the location of your server hosting. And the way that you do this is you want to choose this where the majority of the players on your server would be. So if I'm in the UK and all my friends are in the UK, then I would go for like London, UK hosting. However, if I'm in the UK, but the majority of the friends, the majority of the people on my server are in, let's say, Chicago, then what I will want to do is I will want to set this to Chicago, even though I'm in the UK, because the majority of the people on my server are in Chicago. That's where I want to set the location. You can do this on both of these. As you can see, we would set this to like North America or Europe if I'm in London. We do generally have more choices of the server location over on Host Havoc though. The final thing I want to say is Shockbyte is not at all a bad server host. As you can see, there are a lot of 5-star reviews in here. And if you know what you are doing in terms of you know the amount of RAM that you need, you know how to choose the right server location, when you actually have your server and everything is set up correctly, it is one of the best and most reliable server hosts out there. It is truly an incredible gaming server host. However, as I say, you need to know what you're doing when you're buying your server. You need to know how much RAM you need. You need to know the location, which is also true for Host Havoc. The thing is, I think it's just easier to set your server up correctly on Host Havoc. So that is my comparison of Shockbyte versus Host Havoc. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to smash that like button and tap that subscribe button. And until next time, take it easy.